So this is Taipei Stadium in Chiang Mai, and my opponent is Nong Benz, Sakchatri Gym. You weigh in at Taipei even though you don't like cut weight for your fight. They just weigh you in to see what each person is going into the fight, kind of for gambling purposes, just to like have on their records. There's about a 6 kilo difference between the two of us, which is a little bit more than there has been when I fought her in the past, but is pretty standard for what it's been. Our last 2 fights together, I've lost to her. The first one I felt was kind of a bullshit decision, but I had realized what I'd done wrong for it to go that way. And then the one before, like the one just before this one that I lost, it was in my head a lot because I was just very frustrated in the fight. I had a bad fever and was just kind of not making the right decisions, and she was making all the right decisions and performed in a very good way. She was very ready for me in that last fight. So coming into this fight, I was not happy to be facing Nong Benz because of how I'd felt in the last one, but being able to avenge it was something that I was interested in doing coming into the fight. There was a pretty big crowd at this fight, and I had a lot of support, which was awesome. People were cheering for me. I was making eye contact with people in the crowd who had come to see me, which was pretty fucking awesome. But fighting above my weight is pretty typical of my fights, so this is not an anomaly. This is kind of typical for how I fight for the past few years. I had Dang in my corner again. I hadn't had him in my last couple of fights at Taipei, just fluke things. He wasn't able to be there, but he was my trainer at Lana before I left. My first 2 years in Thailand, I was at Lana Muay Thai in Chiang Mai, and he was my trainer, so we go way back, and I like Dang a lot. So having people in your corner who you feel supported by and who you have a history with definitely bolsters the whole experience. I don't know why that thing says it's round 3. I guess they haven't restarted it yet. It's interesting because since I've learned how to understand Thai, I've been able to hear announcers as I go into my fights in Thai, and I'm not always happy with what they're saying about me just in cultural differences. They're talking about how strong I am, but basically saying I look like a man and things like this. But this English announcer giving information about both me and my opponent, Nong Benz, it's cool to hear the information that he's giving to the audience. He's talking about how she's a northern champion. I think 105 pounds is the belt that she has, but I'm not 100% sure on that. She might be slightly bigger than that. And he talks about how I have lots of experience in Thailand as a Westerner. So he's giving an accurate picture of what this showdown is. Nong Benz brought a bunch of people from her gym. Like, her corner was actually quite big, and then I had support not only in my corner but also in the crowd, which is amazing. But it felt like this was a big, like, side against side showdown. Like, the energy was that this was a big fight, which is interesting because I don't fight in fights that are like big side bet kinds of things. But there was excitement around this one, which can add pressure, but it can also add to the experience in terms of what it feels like. When I watch my Ram Muay before these fights, I can tell how calm I am or how confident I am. Kevin said that this Ram Muay was one of the best he'd ever seen from me. He said it felt and looked different, like I'd kind of added to it or was performing it in a very distinct to me way. But I think that it represents my headspace, the way that my Ram Muay looks before a fight. My Ram Muay is shorter than Nong Benz's, so you have to go wait in your corner, and there are different schools of thought on this. Some people just turn around and watch their opponent's Ram Muay, which I understand because often when people have long, elaborate ones, they're quite beautiful. The other option is to not look at them and kind of just do your stretching and looking in the corner to ignore your opponent while they're doing their thing. I think I kind of do both to a degree. Nong Benz has been on the rise in the north for a number of years. She became Northern champion at the start of this year or at the end of last year, I'm not entirely sure. But she fought a very good opponent, also from the north, Fa Chang Rai, for that belt, who I fought Fa Chang Rai for a Northern belt and won. So I am the de facto Northern champion at that weight. So that's Dang putting the water on. Your cornerman basically says a little prayer for protection before taking your Mongkon off. It depends on who the person is who's doing it. It's very individual, but in general, it tends to be a good luck and protection in the ring kind of thing that they're saying.
Up on the rope.
I'm small, so I have to get up on the bottom rope in order to crack my back on the top one. I've been fighting Southpaw for about a year now. All my last fights against Nong Benz have been Southpaw. But in this one, I just felt that I wanted to go back Orthodox. I kind of in my head was like, I'm not actually Southpaw, I'm also Orthodox, so I don't have to pick one. Like, the whole point is that I want to have versatility, so I don't have to go Southpaw. And Nong Benz is left-handed, so it felt to me right for this fight. And I think that because I made that decision, like I was very confident in making it, and I had made that choice beforehand, not like being stuck into it by being kicked or something, I think that it added to my confidence in the fight and my fluidity. When I watch this, I feel like my movements are much nicer, like less stiff. I've been working with Diesel Noi, the king of knees, at my gym for a couple of weeks before this fight because we invited him down to stay as like an advisor at my gym for about a month. And so he's been working with me, and he was adding these low kicks into my arsenal that he was very adamant in. And I've worked on low kicks before, so it wasn't hard to add them in, but I was really happy that they were in my mind and were working in this fight. Part of that, like the only way that a technique is actually going to make an appearance in the ring is mental. It's not really physical. So I was kind of in a state of flow more in this fight, being able to access things that I had trained and things that I was thinking. So instead of getting in my head and being like kick, kick, kick or whatever, I would think it for a second and then it would be coming out. So this fight was much more enjoyable for me because of those taking the thoughts out, the like middleman inner coach out. That was just round one. It was a little bit hard for me to get in round one, so I came back to the corner feeling like a very mild frustration, but it's round one, so there's lots of room to change. So I was kind of thinking to myself, I can change this. Like, I can come towards her in the next rounds and make shifts. Dang was not saying a lot to me between rounds early on, which, I don't know, you don't get a lot of in the early rounds just because they don't mean a lot yet. Like, you aren't sure how it's going yet in the early rounds, so you won't get necessarily a lot of coaching unless there's something you need to worry about, like keeping your hands up. He's telling me to step on my kicks, I think, which, honestly, he's been telling me for like 6 years. I'll do it sometime, eventually. But he seems to be liking my hands already, so he's like, come at her and punch. The way you come back into a round all the time is pretty, for me, illustrative of how the round's going to go. Usually Kevin says if I take a step forward immediately when they start the round, it means I'm going to be coming forward. If I take a step back, I'm going to be kind of keeping back in a fearful way. I was doing a lot of these dodgings of the kicks in this fight. I don't know why I'm doing that. I've done it before. This fight was interesting to me because I was using a vocabulary of my own techniques and arsenal that came from a wide stretch of time in terms of when I've used them and then they disappear and then they come back. Kevin hates when I get teeped and like kind of fall back like that because it makes the teep look so much more effective than it was. So I kind of, as the smaller fighter, have to show and demonstrate that my opponent cannot affect me the way that their size really should. So if she's teeping me like that, I'm gonna get moved because she's bigger, but stepping in on it, or if I get bounced off, stepping back really quickly, like coming back at her, is the bet for how to make that look better. Like that. See how I used it to catch her. And then the main thing with someone who's bigger than me, and she's also a kneer, is I have to drag her off the ropes in order to not let the ref break us. I've got a pretty good lock on her and I'm pulling her into the center, but I just need to be jamming those knees and turning her. I'm not really turning her. You can hear Dang, he's yelling quick, quick. He wants more knees. So I should be kneeing and turning, kneeing and turning. I'm kind of muscling for a position and then kneeing. That's all right, but it's not the way to go. Now I'm getting kind of pulled around. That's what Dieselnoy was working with me on. So as we broke in the clinch, I nailed her with a leg kick as we broke, which was something that he was very adamant about, and we worked on a little bit, and I was very happy that it came out in this fight. Nong Benz was not happy that it came out in this fight. I think that I affected her with a few of those leg kicks. I've historically tended to pull my leg kicks, so even though I can land them pretty heavy, and this I know because I sometimes get a little gyron and throw them really hard against my trainer, Crew New. I know they can be really hard, but in fights I tend to pull them out of like fear of being blocked or not really committing to the full movement. So staying really close, the way that Dieselnoy has taught me, where you just disengage and throw it from really, really short range, allows me to kind of not be able to pull it. It's hard to pull something from short range. Here Dang is telling me to angle in the clinch. So when I grab, he wants me to be angling to the different sides and then throwing something. So not staying so squared up and like face to face, because it's hard to look like you're affecting someone bigger than you, and your scores are only going to be like on the side of the body, rather than if you angle your body, you can land something in the middle. You basically, in the corner, have a bucket of ice water that people are massaging over your limbs. It's partly to cool you down. It's to stop a little bit of the swelling in like 10 seconds that you might have if you got a leg kick, or if your arm is, you know, starting to swell from something. But it's mostly just to like cool you down and reset you for the next round. There are people who come in with just a bottle of water, like no ice, and they just kind of pour it on you between rounds. So here my teep makes a little bit more of an appearance, but Benz's head kick makes more of an appearance, which is something that tall and not that tall fighters really love to throw at me. I do drop my hands a little bit. It's a really good weapon, but I tend to block it. You can hear Dang yelling at me. He wants me to go. What he means by that is he wants me to stay closer and close in the distance. Go, go, go does not mean like windmill and throw a lot of stuff. It means stay close and pressure your opponent. And in Thai, there's this word, ning, ning. It means to be like unaffected or unperturbed by things. So when she kicks me like that, I should look like the Hulk, like that didn't even matter. Here, here, here. So I'm pushing against her in the rope. That's exactly when Dieselnoy told me I need to do that leg kick, and I did, which is a demonstration of the flow that I was in. Slight plow. She came back really nice on that. Having the like final answer in an exchange like that, oh, her leg's a little bit red. Those are big things, and she did really well in that moment, but in this fight, I was surprising myself at the times that I could kind of throw a lead kick as she was trying to get away from me. That one hurt her. You can tell because she's acting like it didn't. So see, I'm missing, but then I keep coming in. That's just like continuity, not restarting. And here I'm pulling her off the ropes. This ref is awesome. He's not breaking us for no reason. I need to be slightly more active, but I'm trying to like get into a position where I can land a strong knee, whereas I should just be yanking her into a position where I can throw a strong knee. Like, it's not my position, it's her position that I should be focusing on, I guess. So I felt better after that round. That was a good round for me. But it's round 3. So you have round 4, which is a huge, important round in a fight. And then, depending on how rounds 3 and 4 went, round 5 is either going to be you cementing the lead that you have, or you can have like a really big turnaround. If I win round 3, she wins round 4, then it comes down to round 5 kind of thing. So when you see people just backing up or doing a dance-off, usually they're protecting their lead. I've made the mistake of doing that too early. In fact, that was one of the fights that I lost to Nong Benz, is I felt like I was way ahead. And so I took the entire 5th round off, which you should not do. This is Nong in my corner on the right. I've known him since he was like 14 years old. I like him very much, and he fought the night after me. I came back to support him. So here Dang is telling me to swim inside in the clinch more, to move more to the inside. I was clinching her well, and I was locking her well, but my lock was actually an outside position, which I'm able to do because of technique and because of strength, but it's not ideal. You can't move people from the outside very well. And that's kind of why I was having to balance myself so much before being able to make scoring moves. This is the point in the fight when this stretching in the corner actually makes a bit of a difference. I am super not flexible, but stretching your arms after rounds where you've been clinching quite a bit, they can get a little bit of a burn in them. So coming into round 4, because round 3 was good for me, I want to stay close and I want to like double down on the effect I had in round 3. She's trying to come back, so she's actually doing quite well coming after me more in round 4 because she wants to take the lead. It makes for a more exciting fight that she can't just dance this off. So she's trying to just keep a distance and kick. Kicks always score well, even if they're kind of like lame. They don't have to be powerful. So if she can keep kicking me in the middle and towards the head, she's basically like trying to angle off, post, and score. I was proud of that one. I like parried her leg over and kicked her in the butt. I don't know how much that actually scores, but as a like attitude point, I liked it. Kevin's yelling that I have to go. He thinks I'm losing this round. It's possible. Some people look at the fighter who's going backwards and only blocking as losing a fight, but she is landing those kicks. So I could lose this fight in this round and then have a lot of work cut out for me in round 5, even though I did so well in round 3. And I think that during this fight, I actually felt that push-off she just did on me, that was the story of our last fight that fucking made me so mad. So here I'm trying to drag her off the ropes so that I can score. I have a lock on her and I'm trying to trip her, but I can't quite get the angles that I'm trying to do. These are big points, though. These are like killing. I almost hit her in the head. You can't see from the angle because of the rope, but as I was throwing that knee, she pulled her head up and I just barely missed kneeing her in the face. But see, this is the Ning. She's kicking me and I'm not backing off of it at all. And then there, I landed a punch to her jaw and she, like a tree, fell. I did not see the referee wave it off like immediately, so when I went to the corner, I was waiting for him to do a count, and it was already over. He only counted to 2. You can see where I hit her. They're rubbing her jaw. I think she was actually out for a second. I think maybe she was out as she was falling before she hit the ground. That's Balmy, who was just leaning over her. She's also a Northern champion. She's who I'll be fighting very soon and have fought in the past. And her sister Somo in the gray shirt taking care of her. Kevin. Hands of stone. He's excited. I was super proud of that punch because Diesel Noi has been talking up his favorite fighter ever, Wichanoi, who was a knee fighter, but then as he advanced in age as a fighter added hands and became a really good boxer, and he beat Diesel Noy twice. Diesel Noy thinks that he's the greatest fighter ever, and so he was talking him up to me for the weeks leading up to this fight. So for me to win with my hands when Diesel Noy's been talking to me about Witchinoy was actually really good. I think I've only had one other knockout from a punch a long time ago, so I was pretty stoked on a right cross knockout. People who have watched the video have called it a hook because it's kind of a short punch, but it basically was the result of flowing into that punch. It was not like a powerful punch. The power came from the timing, which I was also stoked on because Pinu, Chat Chai, and Kem have all instilled in me the importance of not throwing with power because that'll never hit anything. It's like 60 to 70% power is what knocks people out, and that's totally proof of what that felt like in this fight.
Knockout in a while. No, remember that girl in Isan?
So I thought that was my first hands knockout ever, and Kevin's like, no, remember that girl in Isan? And I was like, all right. I've had a lot of fights, guys. Like, I do remember all of them, but it may take a moment in the Rolodex to, like, remember the more obscure ones. This is Nook. His head is cut off from the film because maybe the other camera got him, but he is old school Lana Muay Thai trainer. These two women came to see me. They live in China and just happened to be able to come see me fight live, and were super excited about it. That made me very excited. They follow my work, they read my stuff, they watch my videos, so if I didn't have people consuming the content that I make, I'd basically be talking to myself. So thank you to all of you who are currently watching and listening to this. People who are patrons who help me get to these fights and produce this content. I can't do this alone.
Some people that came over to cheer Sylvie on.
And then I had tons of people come want to take photos with me, which was very nice. You get to be like the person who everyone is coming over and they're like, can I get a picture? And then they trade out for the other person. Nong Benz is right here. You can see she's okay. They're taking her wraps off, but obviously not happy being knocked out. It's not fun, but she's fine. Dang's talking to her.
Really interesting how that would have gone.
They're right next to you. Like, your opponent is just right next to you. There's no, like, we have to go be miles apart from each other in order to have civility. It's, like, not a big deal. So Kevin was excited that I went from a lock to what they call the plum in the West, which is the double lock behind the head with, like, the elbows in. Photos with kidlets. Same size. This is crazy. When you, like, stand there and people come over and all want to take photos and are excited about your fight and they're, like, stoked on it.
Thank you, Holly.
It feels really good. It's like everyone was part of the entire experience.
There was some chasing, but Sylvie got
So Kevin is talking to people who are watching live. He's saying there was a little bit of chasing, which he knows gets in my head. So if I have to chase after an opponent, I can kind of lose heart a little bit at times. But when you catch them as the knee fighter, that's the main thing. Like, chasing is not the problem. It's whether or not you catch them. I complained to Krunu that I was chasing one of my training partners, and I was like, I feel stupid. And he gave me a really cool speech about how we don't decide whether it's stupid. It's how the fight shakes out, and then whether people had money or not who call it stupid or not. Like, no technique or tactic is bad. It all depends on how it shakes out. So if I catch her, it's not stupid. If I don't catch her, then there are people who aren't me who can be like, that was dumb. This guy leads tours in Chiang Mai, and he said he was very happy to come and see me on that night. I often have people come up and say hi to me. This guy knows a woman who was at our Muay Thai summit. His name is Isak. And Kevin and I had been having coffee at a cafe like a few weeks ago, and he was walking by and recognized me. I still can't believe that people recognize me when they're walking by. It's kind of weird.